Quick play.
Hello there, and welcome to Quick Play, a Retrotopia podcast where we take a look at some of those games that aren't quite beefy enough for a full episode of the podcast, but that we still want to show a little bit of love to. I'm your secret bonus unlockable host, Alan. You know, you've completed the game with Sam and Brian, and you get me as a reward. Only to find out that my moveset is pretty crap, but I do come with a nice fancy new accent. And I'm going to be using that accent today to talk to you about Castlevania The Adventure on the Game Boy, that beautiful grey nostalgic brick of joy. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to do the social thing. We have Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, and more importantly, Discord, which is full of some absolutely fantastic individuals, and we would love to have you come along and join us. You can find all of that at, and I should have had this ready, linktree/retrotopia. That's linktr.ee/retrotopia. Now then, with all of that out the way, it's time to get spooky and let's talk some Castlevania The Adventure. Castlevania The Adventure is a side-scrolling action platformer developed and published by Konami for the Game Boy, released in 1989. It's set in the fictional universe of the Castlevania series and follows Christopher Belmont's quest to defeat Dracula. Players navigate through various levels filled with enemies and traps, utilizing Christopher's whip and other sub-weapons to progress. The game is known for its challenging gameplay and atmospheric music, typical of the Castlevania franchise. The development of Castlevania The Adventure for the Game Boy began in the late 1980s, shortly after the release of the original Castlevania game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Konami, the game's developer and publisher, sought to expand the Castlevania franchise onto Nintendo's handheld platform, capitalizing on the success and popularity of the series. Led by a team of experienced developers within Konami, the project aimed to capture the essence of the Castlevania series while tailoring the gameplay experience to suit the limitations and unique features of the Game Boy hardware. This presented several challenges, including adapting the gameplay mechanics, graphics, and sound to fit the smaller screen and less powerful hardware of the handheld system. The development team drew inspiration from the previous entries in the Castlevania series, particularly the NES titles, to create a game that would resonate with fans while offering a fresh and engaging experience. They focused on crafting challenging gameplay, intricate level design, and atmospheric music to immerse players in the dark and foreboding world of Castlevania. Alrighty then, so why did I pick Castlevania The Adventure to talk about? Well, quite apart from the fact that I'm a huge Castlevania fan, I've been working on collecting all of them. I've beaten quite a lot of them, not all of them. Some of them are far too difficult, but this is one of the games that is very difficult, perhaps more owing to the hardware limitations than anything else, but I have actually been able to beat it on original hardware. So, to put it simply, I just wanted to flex. Yeah. So, this is a very old school Castlevania game, obviously, given the age of it. So, it's a standard Castlevania before Metroidvania was a thing. So, it's very linear. There's no exploration. It's just one man, a whip, and 4 levels filled with undead beasties. So you go through the 4 levels. There's a forest, a cave, and 2 levels of Dracula's castle. And oh, we will get onto those because we'll get there. Um, I assume because of the limitations of the Game Boy, and I'm pretty sure that this is true, but there are no secondary weapons. It's literally just the whip. So you don't have hearts to collect to power a secondary weapon. Instead, in this game, hearts purely refill your life bar, and they're very few and far between. You collect orbs to power up the whip, the vampire killer, and that will increase the length, the range, and if you fully power it up, it will give you the ability to throw fire, which is very, very useful, especially for the bosses. Uh, if you've got that full whip, you're golden. But each time you get hit, it does reduce the level of your whip. And if you do end up at the end of the level with the lowest whip, you're probably fucked. Um, One good thing is that, and fans of Castlevania in general will know what I'm talking about, but there are no stairs in this game. Instead, they're replaced with ropes that you can climb up and down to different screens. Uh, Everyone who's ever played a Castlevania game knows how fucked those stairs are, so that's nice. You would assume that because there are no stairs, there's nothing to get frustrating. You'd be wrong. Uh, and that all comes down to probably, no, inarguably, my greatest gripe with the game in general, which is the gameplay. Uh, for the most part, combat is fine. Uh, it's your basic whip the enemies die, get to a boss, beat the boss. And the bosses, by and large, are fairly easy. So as you work your way through the forest level, which is a fairly straightforward left to right, right to left, whip enemies, etc., etc. Very, very little that can go wrong. You fight a knight at the end, and again, if you've got that full whip, you're fine. He can hardly touch you. Easy stuff. You then go through the cave, uh, and at the end of that, I think it's the undermoles. Basically, there's a wall of holes, and these, if you've played them before, the flea men that you get in some of the other Castlevania games, they basically just hop around the screen, and if you don't deal with them straight away, they can gang up and be really quite unpredictable. So, again, not too difficult. Dracula's Castle. The third level for me was a sticking point for months. It's just a mess of scrolling screens and spikes and ugh, with the controls. We'll talk about it, but at the end you fight the Death Bat, which again he just swoops around the screen. As long as you're not in his way, you can take him out pretty easily. And then the main Dracula castle, which we'll talk about, and culminating in the man himself, Dracula. Which again, none of these bosses, none of these enemies, and most of the levels aren't all that complicated. What does really annoy me is the game. This game is just so fucking slow. I mean, I know it's a Game Boy game, but everything just moves at a snail's pace. Like, it takes so long to do literally anything. And the jumps. My fucking God, the jumps. So, in order, there. How do I describe this? It feels like in certain places and in the most important places, the jumps are specifically designed to be almost impossible to do normally. They're always just that little bit too far. And I found what you had to do in order to succeed is to actually walk yourself almost past the ledge that you were on. So literally the last pixel of your back foot is still touching the platform you were on, and only then were you able to make the jump. It's incredibly precise. Uh, and it just does not have any range to it. It's almost as soon as you jump, you fall, and if you don't you have to jump a good second after you think you have to jump in order to make it. Now that doesn't sound so bad, but for some of the later levels, especially when you're platforming over moving spikes, level 3 in particular, There are scrolling screens where spikes are chasing you up the screen and you have to climb ropes, jump to ledges, climb up another rope, jump across, all while fighting enemies and what have you. And one mistake, and you're right back to the start again. And my God, I was stuck there for months. Like it can kill a playthrough. It's gotten to the point now where level 3 I can actually do fairly easily, but only because I've done it so often, if that makes sense. So that was the sticking point for me for the longest time. Even now, level 4, the main Dracula's castle, that is a sticking point for me. That I've done it once, and once is enough. Again, for the most part, the level is fine. Um, but you just get about halfway through, and again, you're in a room full of moving platforms, spikes that come out of the wall that you actually have to jump on to get to the next spot. And it's so annoyingly precise that it just takes a lot of fun out of it. Now, I'm fine with a game being hard, but it just felt like they upped the difficulty in order to make a very short game longer. I mean, if not for these problems with the controls, the game would actually control really well, but it would probably be over in about half an hour. So yeah, big sticking point for me, that one. Had me pulling my hair out quite a lot. I mean, otherwise, most everything else with the game is fine. I mean, it looks great considering that it's a Game Boy game and B, a very almost release Game Boy game. It really does look very good. I mean, the sprites are all big and nicely detailed. You can tell what everything is, what all the monsters are, the scenery. It's all very easily identifiable. It's not as good as a Mario Land 2 Six Golden Coins, but it's a lot better than Mario Land 1, which, again, while it looked maybe not the prettiest game in the world, it controlled very, very well, which is maybe where this game, perhaps they put too much into things like the graphics, like the sound, that there wasn't enough left for the actual gameplay itself. Um, it can chug every once in a while if there's too much going on, but in an entire playthrough, I probably only noticed it a couple of times, once or twice. So not a huge problem, but when it does slow down, it slows down. Um, Probably my favorite thing about this game is the sound, which should come as no surprise to anyone who's familiar with the Castlevania series. I've never played a Castlevania game that didn't have top-notch sound. And again, even for the Game Boy, being as early as it is, this game sounds incredible. I mean, you've heard a couple of tracks from the game already, and I think they really did a good job with what they had to work with. I mean, every level is suitably moody and atmospheric. The sound effects are great. It just slaps. It does. It's as far as Game Boy soundtracks go. I mean, there's some great ones, but I think this can stand up with the majority of them. Yeah, I mean, it truly is very very nice to listen to. Um, which is good because you're going to be listening to it a lot over and over and over again. So that does take away some of the sting of having to repeat some of these absolutely devastatingly difficult levels. Yeah. Oh, it's a simple game. There's not much to it. It's left, right, up and down, jump button, stab or whip button rather. Um, Very much your basic old school Castlevania. So if you've played Castlevania 1, Castlevania 2, Castlevania 3, you know what you're dealing with. I mean, and it's arguably even simpler because there are no secondary weapons. There is no character swapping or anything like that, or any cryptic Simon's Quest bullshit to deal with. So it's a very simple, easy to pick up, easy to play, difficult to master sort of a game. Um, it's just for the fucking jumps. If they could just get that right, I think they'd be onto something here. Because if not for the slowness, the jumping, it'd actually be a really fun and sturdy Castlevania game. I mean, obviously very short, but I think they did the best that they could with what they had to work with at the time. As it is, though, it's frustrating, and a lot of the deaths do feel cheap, considering that you really have to almost overthink how to navigate some of those jumps there. So it does take away from the enjoyment of the game. And I think by the end of it, I was probably completing it more out of spite than enjoyment. I'd just been playing it for so long that I wanted to get it done so that I could say that I did, rather than out of any sense that I was enjoying the game. I mean, it's not the worst game I've ever played, and I feel bad saying this about my beloved Castlevania series, but in every franchise, there's got to be one or two games down at the bottom of the pile, and I genuinely think that yeah, oh, okay, I'm kicking a Game Boy game, but I mean that said, a lot of these issues, I believe, I've not played much of it, but I believe have been rectified in the Castlevania The Adventure 2 on the Game Boy. So a lot of the jumps are less precise. It moves a little bit quicker. There are secondary weapons, so it's at least they learned from their mistakes. I do believe, in fact, no, I'm sure, that this is part of the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, which I've got on the Switch. I'm not sure. It's probably on everything. I should have looked that up. But I would assume, I've not tried, but I would assume that it would come with save states on console, which I wouldn't feel any shame in using to get through this. Um, Probably would take a lot of the frustration away, and it would still be difficult, but it might take you less time than it took me, which was it probably took me like a good on and off, a good over a year to actually complete. So yeah, if you don't have that sort of time, save states on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection are probably the way to go. That said, that's probably the only way that I would play this game again. Um, would I play it again on original hardware? No. I'm glad I tried it. I'm even gladder I beat it, but no, I don't. I mean, I say no, but next time I want to punish myself, maybe I will. But I think that the Castlevania collection is probably the way to play it. I mean, check it out. It's on there. You might enjoy the frustration more than I did, but it's worth checking out just for the sake of it. If you're a completionist like I am and enjoy the Castlevania series as a whole. So I guess that brings us to how do I rate this thing? Now, I sort of ummed and ahed about this for a while, and I was sort of looking at it and thinking, well, it sounds great, it looks great, it's Castlevania, it's got all of that going for it. But then you've got the gameplay, you've got the controls. So it was sort of 50-50 on things I liked and things I didn't like. So logically, you would think I would say 5 out of 10. Um, but then I got to thinking, well, one of those things is gameplay, and that's a pretty big slice of the gaming pie. Uh, so I think I'm gonna go with a 4 out of 10, and it hurts me to do it because it's Castlevania, and I love Castlevania. But I just, again, original hardware, original cartridge, it's a 4 out of 10. If you could get around that with save states and what have you, maybe it's a more enjoyable experience. But for me, yeah, sorry, Castlevania The Adventure, but that's all you're getting out of me. So, that's everything, I think. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's actually the first one I've ever done, so I hope it went well. I want to thank you guys for listening, of course. I want to thank Sam and Brian for giving me the keys to the car here and trusting me to just get on with this. And if you did enjoy this episode, then please go and check out the Big Brother podcast, Retrotopia. Again, you can find all of the details at linktree/retrotopia. That's linktr.ee/retrotopia. And hopefully we'll see you there. And yeah, so game on and stay out of any spooky castles for the time being, especially if you can't jump.